Hey everyone, welcome back. So in the previous video we looked at two methods called reduce and reduce right and how they worked for us in terms of, basically bringing the items that are inside of an array down to one single value, or in the case of a double dimensional array, down to one single array. In this video we're going to look at sorting and what sort functions we have for an array in ECMAScript 5, and basically how we can implement the default behavior as well as one with the comparer. So let's get started on that. So I'm going to jump over to the code, and basically similar to all the other ones, I'm going to create a sequence of numbers just to start off with. So we'll go var sequence equals to, we'll say 3, 6, 1, 9, 5, 4, 8, 7, 2. Let's try that. 8, 7, 2. 2. So as you can see, this list is out of order, and we want to sort it. Alright, so the default behavior is to do that. So how can we do this easily using ECMAScript 5? Well, in ECMAScript 3 and below, we used to have to try and sort this ourselves. We would create a array that would store the a new set of items in there, and then we'd manage, for each item which one was low, which one was higher, where would we insert it, where would we push it, all that kind of stuff. But with ECMAScript 5, we don't need to do any of that. We can literally just go sequence.sort. Now this method doesn't just return an array of the sorted items, it will also sort the items within the sequence itself. So this sequence now, once I call sort, will sort this in numerical order from 1 through to 9 again. Okay, so it's immutable, and basically when I go console.log here and I go sequence, you're going to now see it in the correct order. So let's just quickly check that. So we're going to go node sorting.js, and there you go. It's in a sorted order from 1 through to 9. So that's a very, very simple example of using the sort function with arrays in ECMAScript 5. That's with numbers. We can also do this with strings. So if I come up here and I have a names array, and just say I put Daryl, and we'll put Andrew, maybe Zach, let's say Michael, and we'll go Charlie, and finally we'll say John. Oops. Now, by default, if I run this, JavaScript is smart enough to realize that I want to sort this in alphabetical order, okay, excluding capital letters. So if I now come in and just do another general sort, I can emit that out as well, and go names, and come over and have a look, and you will see, pretty straightforward, we've got all the names now in alphabetical order, right? That's cool, but what if we had a complex object that we wanted to sort? And let's think about it. In our applications, we're probably going to be looking at returning data from a server, mapping it to objects, and then those objects need to be sorted in a particular way depending on our use case, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more sequence here of data. This one I'm going to call players, right? And I'm going to create an array like so, and in each item we're going to have an object, and it's going to have a property first of player ID, and we can give it a number. So in this case I'm going to go 3, and then I'll go name, and we'll say Daryl, right? And I'm just going to copy this a few times. So we'll do this as many times as we have up here. So 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we'll just add the commas here. And we'll add some new numbers here. So we'll go 3, we'll go 6, 1, we'll go 5, 4, and then 2. And we'll change the names to be, once again, Andrew. We'll go Zach. We'll go Michael, Charlie, and John. Alright. So at this point, we've got ourselves an array of players. If I try to sort this right now, players.sort, and I then output what happens to the players list, what do you think is going to happen? Alright, so if I save and run this now, what is going to happen? Absolutely nothing. The players are in an exact order in which I've set them, right, in the array. And the reason for that is because we haven't defined how we want to sort these objects. So it's just looking at it and going, oh, this is an object, this is also an object. So it's just not, it's giving equal value to all these objects. So it's like, let's just not shuffle anything. So we need to explicitly tell the sort mechanism how we want to sort this, right? So for this example, I'm going to use 2 different ways. The first way I'm going to sort by player ID. So these IDs are out of order at the moment, and I want to sort them by the IDs, right? So let's say, I don't know, we'll go from 1 to 6. Okay. So what do? We'll create a function. And I'm going to call it sort by player ID. And this function is going to take 2 values. It's going to take the previous player that it's looking at, and it's going to take the next player, or the current player that we're looking at. Alright. Now, this function is a comparer function, so it needs to return either 3 different values, right? It needs to either return a 1 if the previous player, or sorry, the current player, I should say, is meant to stay to the right of the previous player. It needs to return 0 if they're considered equal, to which they will probably stay in the same position. And it needs to return -1 if the current player is meant to go to the left of the previous player. Okay, so let's quickly check that by, let's logging out some of this stuff. So previous player, we're going to log that out, and we're going to log out the next player. So the rules are this, right? I'm going to put this in a comment. So we are going to return 1, right, if the player ID of the previous player, right, is greater than the current player. So therefore, in the case of this, the previous player will, well, not necessarily move left. I would actually say that the previous player, right, will move to the left. Move to the right, sorry. Moved right. So because they're higher, they move in a higher ordered position. 0, so if player ID of the previous player is equal to that of the current player, which essentially do nothing different. So we're not going to move anything. And then we return a -1 if the player ID of the previous player is less than the current player, meaning the previous player moved left. Alright, so they're the rules that we're looking at here. So to quickly, easily achieve that, we just do this. Return prev player dot player ID minus next player dot player ID. Oh, sorry, not next player, current player. And I've done the same here as well. Alright, so if the player ID is higher, and in fact it doesn't have to be -1, it just has to be a positive number. So positive number and a negative number. I should put that down. Not 1 and -1. It's a positive number and a negative number. So if you produce a negative number, it means that the previous player will move to the left. If you produce a positive number, it means it will move to the right. Okay? And that's what this is doing here. So if the previous player is greater than, right, so it will have a higher number, then in that case, we're moving right by making the value positive. So that minus that will be a positive number. If they're the same, then it will be 0, so they'll be equal. If it's a negative number, it'll mean this number is less than this number, returning a negative value. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Let's give this a try. So if I come down to the sort function for players now, and I go sort by player ID, and save that, and run the code, we will get the players in the right order, to which I have made a mistake here and forgotten to put the 2. Let's try this again. Now we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So now we're in a certain order. If we want to reverse this for whatever reason, then these rules are reversed by changing this and the previous player around. Right? So now we'll get the reverse order. As you can see, there's the reverse. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But that changes the rules of the game here. So let's go back. I'm going to remove the console.logs. You yourself can take a look to see how it's comparing up here. So it's comparing firstly with me against Andrew, and then it's saying, okay, or for the reverse one, it was saying, okay, leave Andrew or move Andrew in front of Daryl. Then it compares Daryl to Zach. It realizes it doesn't need to move Daryl. Then it goes Zach against Michael, realizes it needs to move Michael, but it doesn't know if Daryl or Michael is higher, so then it does a comparison to that, and so on, so on, so forth, right? Might take you a little bit of time to understand how it sorts its way through, but if you try and understand this mechanism of each time it iterates through to work out what position to go to, you'll get a good understanding of how the sorting mechanism works. Alright? But for us, we're just making sure that the previous player ID is higher than the next player or the current player. And that will ensure a order going in the ascending fashion, not the descending fashion. So that's by player ID. Now, if I want to do it by, let's say, name, right, we can do that as well. So I might create another function here, and I'll go sort by name, and we'll go descending in this case, okay? And this one, we're going to go player again, and we'll go current player again. And once we do that, I'm not going to write comments or log anything this time. I'm just going to ensure that the values are in lowercase. So we'll go player name lowercase equals player dot name dot to lowercase. And I'll copy that and do the same for the current one. Just current, and make that current player. Alright, so now I'm going to go if, in this case I'm going to say if the previous player, right, the order of the previous player, or the alphabetical order of it, is higher than that of the lowercase, the current player name, like so. Well, in that case, we're saying that we want to return -1, right? Because we want the descending order here. We don't want the ascending order. If previous player was meant to be higher, then we would have a situation where, you know, it should be the reverse, right? Anyway, moving on. So, else if we go lowercase, so basically the opposite of this. So if this is less than this, right, then we're going to return a positive value, so we'll just return 1 in this case. Otherwise, at the end of it, else, we're just going to return that it's equal. Now if we do this, we're going to see the names in descending order. Okay, so let's quickly check that by replacing the sort by player ID with sort by name descending. Jump over, run it. Well, we'll clear the screen first, there's a lot going on here. Run it, and you'll see the names are now in descending order. Okay, so that's pretty much the sort function, and there's a lot to understand there. That's just me trying to be as simplified as possible. Just keep in mind that if the previous value coming in generates a negative value, it will go to the left. Alright. If it's 1, if it's 1, it will go to the right. And if it's 0, it will stay pretty much where it is. Okay. That's it for this video. And that's it for ECMAScript 5. So in the next video coming up, we're going to start looking at ECMAScript 6 stuff. And there's a lot there, so I'm probably just going to pick my poison a little bit and pick ones that I think are important for Node. But yeah, there's a lot to go through. So I'll see you all in the next video.